share with you guys a riveting story, a fascinating story, a story of bravery, a story of heroism, a story of feminist, badass lady who paved the way for the rest of the women in America, right here in Saint Albans, Vermont. It was a dreary day, heavy clouds constantly. Mr. Smith, the governor, was in Montpelier, the legislature being in session. My eldest son, George, was in Andover at school. Our coachman in Burlington for the day on a matter of business. The garden men had gone to a cider mill with a load of apples. Edward, my second son, 10 years old, was with them. The farm hands were at a distance harvesting potatoes. About 4 o'clock, while I was engaged in domestic duties, my young daughters with me, one infant in arms, a servant girl from our nearest neighbors, rushed in greatly excited, saying, "The rebels are in town, robbing the banks and burning the houses and killing the people. They are on their way up the hill and intend to burn your house." This was indeed alarming. The Union troops had recently burned the mansion of Governor Letcher in Virginia and Governor Brown in Georgia. What a grand retaliation if they could burn the residence of Governor Smith, the northmost state. Yet as the results proved, plunder, not revenge, was the motive. Our danger was only too apparent. No men on the premises. My daughters were too young for aid or counsel. Perceiving something dreadful had happened, they began to cry. There were no telephones in those days. I could not summon immediate help. My friends in town, no doubt, had all they could do to preserve their own lives and property. I cannot say I was frightened. The peril and gravity of the situation steadied me. I called my servant girls and told them of our danger. Only one kept her head, a Scottish girl, Emma Ingalls. I called her ever afterward my lieutenant. We closed every blind and shade, bolted every door but the front one. My first impulse was to run up the flag, that if we went down, it might be with flying colors. But realizing the rashness of such an act, I desisted. "Shall we get out the hose?" said Emma. "No," I answered. "If the rogues see it, they will at once cut the hose. But if they fire the buildings, we will attach it to a hydrant and do the best to save the buildings. For the wretches will probably leave as soon as they set the fire." When these arrangements had been completed, I began a search for weapons. I found a large horse pistol that had recently been presented to Mr. Smith, and went out on the front steps of our house with it in my hand. There were no bullets. All I could hope for was to intimidate. They would not surely fire upon a woman. I saw a horseman galloping up the hill. "The hour has come," I mentally exclaimed. "This is the advance of the raiders." But the raider turned onto the carriageway, and I perceived him to be Stuart Stranahan, my sister's husband, who had been in the Army of the Potomac on Custer's staff, but was now home on sick leave. "The raiders have gone north," he said, "after robbing the banks, killing one man, wounding others. and setting buildings on fire. They stole horses and are on their way to Sheldon, foregoing their design to fire this place for fear of losing the plunder. For although they came part way up the hill, they faltered, turned back and fled on another road. We shall pursue them. I came for arms. Here, take this pistol, I said. It is all I have yet found, and Stuart, if you come up with them, kill them. Kill them. I never before felt so murderous. The frenzy of battle was upon me. The blood of the old Norse king stirred in my veins. Of course we will, Stuart answered, and hurried away. At that moment, the cook came running in to say that there were some men at the barn after horses. I tore through the house out to the stable, where I found no enemies, but some of our own townspeople, who said the raiders had taken so many horses from the village there were not enough left for the pursuit. Our stalls were full. I gave them first my own saddle horse, Major, I said. He has been in the war. He will behave well. They then took 3 others, all that were required, and went off without delay. 2 of the horses were injured in the pursuit. They were never sound afterward. Returning to the house, I found the girls had discovered a rifle. I took the rifle on my shoulder and started for the village. Before going many rods, I met a man whom I recognized as one of our townspeople. He said, "I am after arms. The Southerners have bought or borrowed almost everything we had in town." "Take this rifle," I said. "It is a good one." I was on my way to offer it. All these men told the same story of ruin wrought in the village, exaggerated, of course, by the excitement of the hour. I went back to the house and tried to calm my nerves, so as to be prepared for the next emergency. Presently, some friends came in to assure me that the immediate danger was over. The enemy had left town, and a resolute party was in hot pursuit. Meantime, exciting events were in progress elsewhere. The telegraph operator in Saint Albans had sent this message to the governor: "Southern raiders are in town, robbing banks, shooting citizens, and burning houses." Forgetting the alarm and anxiety that would follow such a message, without further ceremony, he locked his office and rushed away to join the excited crowds that now thronged the streets. Mr. Smith had just been informed through other sources that trouble might be expected from the refugees in Canada. Raids were plotted all along the border, the object of which to seize railroad trains, rob banks, and burn towns. He had called a council consisting of the adjutant general and 2 other gentlemen, and was at that moment in earnest consultation as to what course was advisable, when in rushed a messenger, pale and too much excitement to speak, and thrust a dispatch in his hand. Mr. Smith read it aloud, and speaking of the circumstances afterwards, said, "There were 3 pale, astonished men in that group. I didn't see the 4th. His first order was to stop every train on the railroad. Call back that which has just left Montpelier Junction. Being president of the road, there was not an instant's delay. In vain he did telegraph Saint Albans for further information. There was no response, and the distracting inference was that the raiders had possession of the telegraph line as well as the town and railroad." His first impulse was Saint Albans instantly. His family and home were in peril. A second thought brought his public duty to mind. The conspiracy might involve the entire northern border of the state. He must remain at the seat of government. He sent an order to the United States Hospital at Montpelier, and in a brief time a squad of veteran invalid corps took the recalled train and hastened to Saint Albans. Late in the evening, our doorbell rang and a soldier inquired for the lady of the house. I answered the summons and saw a tall man in military uniform. He saluted and said, "Madame, I am the officer of the guard. I come to you for orders." I raised my eyes in astonishment, claiming solemnly, "My God, is this a military station? War in northern Vermont. Terrible." Turning to the corporal, I said, "I have no orders to give. Make yourselves as comfortable as you can in the outbuildings. If there is trouble, do whatever your judgment dictates." The next morning, 2 additional companies arrived to guard the town. A home guard and infantry and cavalry were organized. The streets were regularly patrolled, and suspicious persons were arrested. Great excitement and apprehension prevailed. Strange fireworks were thrown up at night. A barn west of the village was burned. On this occasion, the corporal came to me for orders. I told him he might take his men to aid in the extinguishing of the fire. He respectfully suggested that this might be a ruse of the enemy to draw the guard from their post to give them the opportunity to burn our buildings. I assented at once to his superior sagacity, and the guard remained. The U.S. troops and the home guard assembled in 15 minutes, but the pouring rain came on, and their services were not required. No doubt the fire was of incendiary origin. We were greatly frightened. I shall never forget the cries of my children wakened from sleep by the confusion.